You're watching the Chaos Protocol on Transplanar RPG, an all-transgender, people of color-led dark fantasy TTRPG show set in an original non-colonial, anti-Orientalist multiverse. If you like what you see, please consider pledging to our Patreon to support the show and get access to a patron-only after-show, early podcast episodes, GM notes, character sheets, and even the chance for your tabletop OC to cameo in our series. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy. The Chaos Protocol is a dark fantasy series that may contain content that is triggering for some viewers. Content warnings for this episode include complex relationships, death of loved ones, blood, gore, and fire. Arc 2, Episode 25. Life is Dreaming. From Carved Inside an Empty Urn by Connie Chong. "16 days and 16 nights after the gods vanish from the city of heaven, dawn finally breaks. It breaks over the cerulean tiles of the Azure complex, glimmering like an untouched sapphire. It breaks over the deepest shadows of the Black River, spilling light across the smoke that curls up from incense dedicated to forgotten gods. It breaks over the tallest peaks of the Vermilion Library, poking rosy fingers through wooden windows holding so much knowledge. It breaks over the diamond granite of the White Forge, catching the glinting edges of immaculately crafted killing tools. It breaks over a city bathed in celebration and joy and love and hope. One by one by one by one, tired but excited, spent but still with more left to give, the gods of the city of heaven trickle toward the hall of peerless destiny. It is time. It is time for the Emperor to proclaim her virtue. It is time for a new era. It is time for dawn. Lumira and Seir. We find the two of you in the courtyards beyond the throne room. Countless gods filter past you like the tides of an unyielding river, pouring into the hall of peerless destiny. The last beat of the assembly drum resounds into silence, replaced by excited chattering and murmuring from innumerable deities all around you. But it's not the voices of the gods that draw your attention. It's the voice of your strike team member, Xainan, echoing deep inside your soul, deep in a place where ghosts and shadows and nightmares and hopes live. But it's Xainan's voice, definitely Xainan's voice, and it says, "White Forge, now." There is an urgency to his tone, but no other information, no call for help, no explanation, just a location and a demand. In this moment, the two of you have a choice. You can either heed Xainan's summons, whatever they might be, or you can go to the Hall of Peerless Destiny and keep your eyes on the Emperor. What do the two of you decide?
I think Lumira, when she hears that, it's so deeply unsettling and abnormal to her that Xainan even has this ability in the first place. And also the way it resonates in her mind. It's almost as if his voice creeped up the back of her spine and implanted itself directly into her head. And she freezes and looks at Seir, wild-eyed, eyes wide. Did you hear this?
Seir, I did. And Seir meets that gaze. There is a focused fear. You've seen this look on Seir many times before when he is tasked to protect you all and he feels that he can't. And he stares at you, holding your intensity with your gaze. I heard that. That can't be good.
He wouldn't call us if it wasn't worth it, but we still have a mission.
We have to be here. Fuck! Seir curses.
As though summoned by your curse, rising out of the pool of shadows that fall from your bodies, Ying. Hello. Lumira, Seir, I hope I'm not interrupting. I was just wondering why you weren't moving toward the hall. Is everything okay?
Xainan called. He needs our help, but we have to stay here.
Oh, Xainan. Well, I can go.
You want to be a part of the strike team, right?
Yes.
Lumira.
Yes, I do.
Lesson 1 of Strike Team Nova. Protect ours. You go to Xainan, we'll stay here. We don't have a choice. Seir. Do we fail? Again?
No, not again. And Seir looks at Ying and that fear swells in his chest and begins overflowing like a cup poured full. And he stares at Ying and the fear for Xainan, fear for Ying, and he pulls the crescent blades out of his waist. And Connie, what I would like to do is send the crescent blades to Xainan and to Ying.
Oh, okay, excellent. Yes, you hold out the crescent blades to Ying, holding them by the blade, and Ying extends slightly shaking hands and grips the handles, but doesn't take them from you yet. Are you sure? I know how much these blades mean to you. And what about you? How will you protect yourself?
Weapons are tools. The skill of the wielder is also here. Relevant. I am the wielder. I'm here with Lumira. That is all we will need. But you and Xainan, you are going to need all the help that you can get. And as he hands the crescent blades over the Ying, he mutters in his mind's eye to patience and violence. Patience. Go to Xainan. Give him that window of opportunity. Give him that sight. Hold his space until he can win. Violence. Don't leave Yinghe's side no matter what happens. Strike down any foe, all foes. Make them bleed. Cut them down. Protect him. Please. And Seir hands them. And Connie, I know I'm asking a lot. I'm willing to burn the tag to make this happen.
You can do it, but what this means is you won't have access to these tags while they're away from you. So you don't need to burn the tags. You can just give the crescent blades, like, narratively over to Ying, but you won't.
Okay.
You obviously won't have access to them while they're gone.
Yeah,
this
okay.
way. Okay? All right.
Perfect.
Cool. Ying takes the blades, and in that moment of transference, you feel the steel of their curvature vibrate in response to your mental command. And you know that you've placed them in good hands, and that the weapons will not fail you. And Ying takes in a deep breath, steals their resolve, glances at both of you and says, I won't fail either. I want to help Strike Team Nova. I want to be helpful. Not just to repay a debt, but because I would like to think of all of you as my friends. And don't worry, I'll be okay. I'll make sure Xainan is okay too.
You can, and you will, succeed and protect. That's what we do. And I think Lumira will step into her personal space a bit, and she's muttering just a very simple protection spell over her at the same time. And at the same time, slides her a piece of her stabilizer gum.
Oh, I love that. Yes, Ying takes a piece of the gum and folds it into the sleeves of their robes. They nod as they feel a little bit of your blessing kind of settle over their shoulders and kind of give like a curt response. Thank you, Lumira.
You can split it if you need to. The more the better, typically.
I'll make sure to do that. And if for some reason things in the White Forge are really dangerous or scary, I always have my shadow step. I can just grab Xainan, and if Naim's there too, him as well, and escape through the shade.
Naim is also there. Right. Okay.
Good. All of your safety is paramount. Don't engage a threat unless you have to. Do you hear me, Yinghe? Do not engage unless you have to.
Do not engage unless I have to. Yes, heard.
Good.
Okay.
And Seir touches the tips of Yinghe's fingers that are grabbing onto the crescent blades. They will protect you. Now go.
Thank you. Yes, I'll go. Bye. Be safe.
We will.
And Yinghe sinks back into the shadows, and the two of you set your sights on the throne room. Inside the Hall of Pureless Destiny, you see every single god of the City of Heaven. Well, almost every single god, 10,841 to be exact, with the sole exception of the Forge Master. Almost everyone is here, and almost everyone is waiting, and nothing will ever be the same again. You find yourselves near the front of the crowd, in the generous space around Ansha. The demon glances at both of you sideways with that wolfish grin before his eyes settle back on the symbols and the courtier. As always, the four symbols stand at the base of this throne, facing that seat of polished red sandalwood. They stand with more precision and focus than they ever have, their backs straight, gazes focused on the destiny only one of them will claim. Even Drooling looks a little unsure, but still focused. Longdu sits upon that sandalwood throne, brimming with magic, observing the gods pouring into this hall. When the crowd has settled around even the darkest and most shaded corners of this chamber, Xiaocheng steps forward from the base of the throne. They proudly proclaim with just a tinge of bittersweetness, for they know this will be the last time they can say this before everything changes. All welcome the immortal Emperor Longdu, Devourer of the Devouring, Grand Adjudicator of the Game, Sovereign on high of Yaolan, the Amethyst Dragon. There is an eruption of applause, of cheering, of jubilation, and for once, Longdu lets it play out. They don't quell it by raising a hand, they don't cut it short by speaking, they simply let their people cheer. And when their people are ready, and the hall is quiet once more, they speak. Gods of the City of Heaven, I am ready to announce my virtue. These past 16 days and 16 nights have been arduous. They have illuminated the worst parts of us, but they have also illuminated the best parts of us. The person who shall be my virtue exemplifies courage and humility, elegance and charm, diligence and steadfastness. But most of all, they exemplify selflessness. Though they serve the four symbols, their true allegiance is and has always been to the city itself. To us, the gods of heaven, the communities we've built, the ties that bind us, the promises that make us. This person epitomizes what it means to be a leader, something I have had to learn through bloodshed and sacrifice, but which comes naturally to them as breathing. Being virtue is not about who's strongest, or the most cunning, or the most charming, or even the most dedicated. Being virtue is about putting the city first. If anything, I hope this person can learn to take some time for themselves and balance their soon-to-be duties as virtue with what they want as well. But I am confident they will be able to do so with excellence and grace. All welcome the courtier of four symbols, wielder of the river gourd, the virtue of heaven, Xiaocheng. Xainan. In the darkness of the White Forge, Shuijiang's eyes are two black coals with an underglow of dazzling diamond white. The Forge Master addresses you and Naim, her gaze never straying. Lu Hua was never going to be virtue. That was only ever a distraction. I had to be careful. After all, there are eyes in the City of Heaven. Watchful, ever-present eyes. In the Hall of Peerless Destiny, we see Lang Hui, shocked at first by the Emperor's proclamation, then grimly satisfied. They clap their black-tipped hands together as a great swell of celebration emerges from the gathered gods. Back in the White Forge, Shrijiang continues. There are numerations, too. Those who account for every single little thing that could be misplaced, that could signal disaster. In the hall, we see Chunxing clapping alongside the other gods, gazing upon Xiaocheng with pride in their eyes. Back in the White Forge. There is also strength. Power. If you temper a blade with too much heat, you ruin its edge. Under the light of fire, all falsehoods are revealed, all knowledge found. Sometimes the most dangerous obstacle is the simplest one. Brute force. In the hall, Zhiling stands tall and proud at the base of the throne, smiling at Xiaocheng, at the Emperor, at the entire city of heaven on the precipice of change. But the obstacles to my goals don't matter anymore. Xiaocheng is frozen with disbelieving shock. Their orange eyes brim with tears, with emotion. They look at the swelling applause, at the four symbols whose faces are gilded with genuine congratulations, because this was the only outcome that would have made sense this entire time. The Emperor is right about one thing. And the Emperor descends from her throne. She conjures a crown of pearls and inclines her head toward Xiaocheng, which horrifies the courtier who has only ever inclined their head toward her. But a look passes between them, an unspoken feeling, an understanding, a seeing. Xiaocheng bows their head in reverence and accepts the crown of the virtue. And even you, Xainan, can hear the cheering from the Hall of Peerless Destiny all the way up here in the blackened depths of the White Forge. This is the dawn of a new age. The cheering doubles. It triples. It quadruples. The noise shakes the tallest peaks of heaven, reaching even the great sage upon Tiandu Feng. Xiaocheng looks proud, happy, overwhelmed. Tears spill down their cheeks in silver rivers. The only thing that matters now is what comes next. Amidst the cheering, Lu Hua steps forward. She kneels in front of Xiaocheng and Longdu. Lying flat across their hands is the Masterwork Sword. It's finally complete. The diamond edge is tempered, the blade is awakened. It hums with magic, sentience, intention. A gem has been selected, and it glimmers in the pommel. It's a beautiful diamond with a living interior that seethes with mist. A capsule of captured fog. That which must be done. Lu Hua holds the sword aloft toward the Emperor and the Virtue, their head bowed in respect. She cries out, "Oh, Grand Adjudicator! I spent years crafting this sword in the hopes that the Emperor might find me suitable for the position of Virtue, but now I see what has been in front of me, in front of all of us, all along. Courtier of four symbols, newly proclaimed Virtue, you are the truest, most worthy successor to the Sandalwood throne. So I humbly ask that the two of you accept this token of my gratitude and unwavering loyalty to the City of Heaven." The Emperor steps forward to inspect the sword. "That which has already happened." Xiaocheng's eyes widen. Their gaze fixates on that pommel, that gem of swirling mist, sensing something wrong about its foggy depths, something unfamiliar but familiar at the same time. An omen, a nightmare repeating. As Longdu reaches for the sword, the blade starts to vibrate as though it has a mind of its own. That which the river of fate itself. But then Xiaocheng snatches the weapon by the hilt. They hold it on their opposite hand, away from the Emperor, far away from the Emperor, and they speak in a voice of giddy, fearful exhilaration. This is the weapon, Emperor! The weapon for my nightmares! I did it! I saved you! I just need to keep this away from you and... But then the hand holding the sword twists.
Despite our futile attempts to swim upstream,
Xiaocheng lunges forward as though a puppet on an inexorable string, and they impale the Emperor through the chest, the heart, the soul.
has made her will.
And the immortal Emperor Longdu, devourer of the devouring, grand adjudicator of the game, sovereign on high of Yaolan, the amethyst dragon, is killed at the hands of their virtue. Even you feel it, Xainan. Up in the White Forge, over 100 li away from the Hall of Peerless Destiny, even you feel it. The killing of a god. Something in the very fabric of magic itself ruptures like a thread pulling apart in a weave. A voice falling out of harmony from a song. A cruel wind tearing apart the mist. You feel it in your very soul. All of you feel it. All 10,842 gods, 7 cultivators, 1 demon, and 1 demigod. All of you feel it. Even the people of the cradle, down in Yaolan, they sense it too, though the details escape them. It's just a sob of thunder in the distance, a weeping of rain on the horizon. The killing of a god. The killing of a god killer. And in the Hall of Peerless Destiny, chaos descends. It descends in a numbing blanket of noise. It descends in the screams from the gods that fill this hall, in the panicked voices, in the blood-curdling wails. It descends in the seething horror on Xiaocheng's face as they try and fail to pull the sword from the Emperor's unmoving chest. Now with crimson blood pooling across her robes, Xiaocheng's fingers compelled around the hilt in an unyielding grip, their throat going raw with an ungodlike noise of grief shrieking out of them. It descends in the sudden blankness on Zhuling's face, and the strange calm that falls over her as she draws her longsword and turns to Lu Hua, who is still kneeling, still living 3 seconds in the past, a look of incomprehension on her face. It descends in the abacus, quivering in Chunxing's shaking hands, the beads rattling in terrified prayer. It descends in the empty shock on Lang Hui's eyes, the rigid curl of the serpent around their shoulders, the involuntary twitch of their inky right hand. Back in the White Forge, Shrijiang picks up the finished great axe with one hand and hoists her hammer aloft with the other. She faces you, Xainan, and she faces Naim.
You felt it too, didn't you? The death of the Emperor. So it is said. So it is done. Xiaocheng might be the virtue, but I won.
Xainan, what do you do?
The stunned feeling, that feeling of the world being ripped apart a little bit inside of him, breaks something. The calm that set on him, given to him as a gift from the mist and from Xiaocheng, it cracks, and that thread that was holding it together was actually just a knit, and it pulls all the way out. And from deep in his chest, Xainan yells, "What did you do?"
You know what's been done. You can feel it. All of us felt it. The sacred killing of a god killer. As it should have been, as it is, as it shall.
And Xainan steps forward. He doesn't think to look to his side where Naim is. He can hear at a great distance the sound in the Hall of Peerless Destiny, but I don't think he's making out any detail of it. It could be cheering, it could be crying, it could be screaming, and it doesn't matter. because all Xainan hears is this deep in his soul sound of wind whistling through broken wood, dust rolling deep inside of him. But it isn't haunting him. It is the rage of shrapnel in the wind that cut up his face. It is the drying pain that drove him out into the storm to find what he needed. It is the drive to survive that suddenly pulls him forward, and he steps and draws his bow from the quiver on his side. You're gonna have to do so much better than that. What? Why?
Why? The answer is so simple, Cultivator. You see, the problem these days is no one's honest anymore. All I've done is lift the shroud of denial. Now we can become what we've always been, but that we've hidden underneath masks, behind closed doors. Now those doors can open, and we can be free. Free to be who all of us are deep down inside. Vessels of violence, vessels of cruelty, of destruction and bloodshed. I don't do what I've done for appreciation or gratitude, though you are welcome.
That isn't truth. The only true thing here, the weapons on the walls, they just act. They just do. And Xainan draws an arrow. He doesn't care about the layers that he's wearing. He doesn't care about his hat. He doesn't feel the cherry blossom twist as he pulls his head back, tilting slowly towards where someone else is. Xainanesh, the agent, isn't here. A glimmer of rage, firelight from the diamond forge catches in his eye as he draws his arrow. The only true thing, the simple truth, is what these can do. And he draws the arrow.
Do you loose it, or do you wait for a response first?
I think he loses it.
Okay, I need you to unleash violence. So roll
In one
2d6
fluid
plus
motion.
tags. Yep, what tags are you invoking?
Birdsong bow, streamlined equipment,
Mhm,
nimble
that's two.
fingers, survivalist,
Mhm.
sentinel against the ending,
That's 5, okay.
and grief's long shadow.
That's 6. I'm going to invoke this as a shield, because you're using your
Yeah.
bow as a sword, not a shield. Not to
Correct.
protect, but to attack, to wreak justice, basically. And I'm also going to invoke Drained. That's 2. Drained 2. As well as Marked for Death. As Shuijiang's eyes pin you, you feel a memory of the dreaming mist, the corrupted mist that was trying to seep into each of your souls, and you realize, of course it is. It's her. She's the one who's been corrupting the mist from the inside this whole time, and I believe you're at Marked for Death 3, so that's a net 0.
Correct.
Roll 2d6.
It's only a 7.
Okay, on a 7 to 9, you exchange blows. You get to inflict a status with tier equals tags, and suffer or worsen a status of the GM's choice in return.
I think as Xainan loses the shot, he isn't really thinking. He doesn't take time to draw it and sight it down the arrow. He, pure instinct, draws it and looses it, and I think he aims to hit her in her her arm that's holding the axe, the one her hammering arm.
Okay, Okay, so the arrow shoots out from your bow. Oh, with a 7, it twirls through the air with perfect marksmanship, perfect precision. You wanted to basically shock her into dropping the axe or weakening that axe-wielding arm. The arrowhead makes contact with her skin and then splinters in half vertically down the shaft. And 2 pieces of the arrow fall as useless ammunition around the completely unfazed god. And Zhejiang slowly turns her head to the side at a perfect 15-degree angle and says,
Oh, you'll have to do so much more than that to make a god bleed. Let me show you what I can do, what I've been holding back for 1,000 years.
And Zhejiang lifts the hammer, which begins to glow a bright, dazzling white. And as she starts to bring it down, rising out of the shadows behind you, Xainan, is a form with long flowing hair and dark robes. Ying surges out from the shade and flings patience and violence in an X formation above their head to intercept the blow for you. You see them kind of rise like a pillar, like a shield, and they take this hammer slamming down. There is a massive explosion of light, a massive explosion of noise as the hammer meets these 2 moon crescent blades, and Ying is flung across the chamber, slams into a far wall, and starts sliding down it, but they stagger onto their feet. When they look back up, they're still holding onto both crescent blades, and blood is trickling out the side of one mouth. But they're shaking their head, clearing it, and they look over at you, Xainan. Xainan, are you okay?
Fine.
3 of you, then. A demigod and 2 cultivators. I suppose I could use a warm-up before I join the fray. And you are wrong, cultivator.
And Zhejiang turns to look at you, Xainan, and when she steps forward, her foot crunches over the shattered parts of your arrow, lying limply and uselessly on the ground.
A weapon's purpose. I am a blacksmith. I am the forge master of the City of Heaven. And even before I was the best blacksmith the mortal world has ever known. How do you think I rose to godhood? I made the diamond forge, a furnace capable of hardening even the weakest souls into immortality. And I sat inside it for 49 days and 49 nights, and when I emerged, I was a god. My soul was purified, it was cleansed. No one in the sister realms understands blacksmithery, weapon making, more than I do. Every weapon I've ever made has always sung with only a single purpose. Kill. 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 Those who say they fight for honor, or to protect others, or to keep their loved ones safe, are kidding themselves. I've seen what weapons have been used for over and over and over again since time immemorial, no matter the lofty ideals their wielders claim. At the end of the day, you are what you do. The means create the end. Violence.
Seir and Lumira. In the Hall of Peerless Destiny, chaos reigns. The gathered gods are screaming, howling, wailing. A miasma of confusion, thicker even than the corrupted mist of the river gourd, descends upon the throne room. Lang Hui and Chunjing are frozen to the spot. Lu Hua is kneeling at the base of the throne, staring slack-jawed at the emperor's limp body pinned against the sandalwood throne. And Xiaocheng is screaming and heaving and pulling at the longsword pierced through Longdu's chest, their fingers still wrapped around the hilt as though magically compelled. And you also see Zhiling advancing toward a stock still frozen Lu Hua, her sword drawn. The flames are not red, not this time. They are an icy, scorching blue, the color of tears. Lumira and Seir, you've been here before. As everything spirals out of control, what did the two of you do?
Seir does what he does best. He looks over at Lumira, looks at a fallen body, and yells, "I'll make a path for you!" And he will start shoving all of these gods that are panicking out of the way so that Lumira has a straight trajectory over to the Emperor's body.
Unlike typical Lumira, who sees and jumps directly into action, you see something very opposite. You start pushing people out the way, and Lumira is stuck, still. Her eyes are wide and bouncing all over the place. You can hear she's struggling for breath.
Lumira.
Her eyes jump everywhere before they immediately land on Zhiling. The look on her face is pained and desperate, but familiar. And for a second, she's back in the Wild Sea. And when that blade went through the Emperor's chest, just briefly, she saw Sing. And she's not where she's standing. She's standing where Zhiling is, looking on in horror, in desperation. And she freezes for what feels in battle time is minutes, but in actual time is just a few seconds before she just happens to run her gilded fingertips across the sandalwood pen that she got from Zhiling. The cool metal of the clip is like a bucket of ice water being poured over her at the exact same time. And just as briefly as you saw the panicked, desperate look on her face, it is steel, solid, and focused. And she peels through the path that you made for her, jumping over whoever has fallen on the ground, pushing out of the way whoever steps in her direction as she makes a beeline straight for the throne.
Okay. Lumira, as you follow the path forged and parted for you by Seir, you do pass Zhiling and Luhua on your way. And Zhiling's face isn't panicked, it's not fearful, it's completely empty. There's nothing there. But inside her crimson eyes, you see it. An immeasurable and unmortal, purely divine amount of grief and rage. If you look for too long into Zhiling's eyes, you too will become burned to ash. She's advancing on Luhua. She's beginning to raise the blade. Do you continue onward toward the Emperor's body? Do you stay, or does Seir cut in?
I go straight towards the body. Nothing
Okay.
stops me.
As soon as you peel forward, Seir sees Zhiling and the blade, and where you see the face of Sing upon the Emperor, Seir sees the face of the Chosen One on Luhua. And in that split second of feeling that killing intent burning down his spine as he feels that gaze, Seir pivots and is prepared to catch the blade if they should raise it, but is standing guard over Luhua.
As you intercept your form between Zhiling's and Luhua's, Zhiling says, simply, step aside.
Stand down! They are not your target.
Aside! And when Zhiling screams, a pair of wings flare out from her shoulders, wings of fire wider than the horizon, scorching the eaves of the Hall of Peerless Destiny.
I will not let you kill an innocent.
An innocent. An innocent. Would an innocent bring a killing tool into this hall? Would an innocent give the weapon to her newly named virtue and have it slice through the Emperor's heart, through her chest, through her soul? I want to know, Lu Hua, why? Before I break the law of abstention for the first but not the last time, why you have done this, why you have betrayed the city of heaven. Answer me now! But Lu Hua is frozen. Their mouth parts to speak, no words come out. They close their lips, they lick them, they look up at you, Seir. Their eyes are wide and shaking, and their head is moving slightly from left to right, and you know in that look, in that expression, Lu Hua had no idea this would happen.
I know. He says to Lu Hua, I know. And I will not stand aside. You talk about them carrying a killing weapon, but there's a killing weapon in your own hand!
I have not slain a god. In over 1,000 years, I observe the law of abstention. I abide by the Concordat. But I will not hesitate.
Then abide by your duty. Your duty to your emperor, who is not yet lost to us.
I would kill 1,000 gods if it means avenging her death!
Why not save just her? Save 1,000 gods! Is your fire so wild? So untempered? Is your will so weak?
I need you to connect with someone, Seir. So... I think you have revealed something intimate. I think that's enough. Roll 2d6 plus tags.
I will use the chosen one, a brother's devotion, and powerful against gods.
Can I
That
help?
works. Yes. How would you like to pitch in, Lumira?
Lumira looks up at Zhiling right as Seir asks, just when Zhiling says I would kill 1,000 people to avenge her death, I think right at that moment Lumira damn near softball skids on her knees across the stage where the throne is sitting, stopping directly at the side of the body, and you just hear, "Not again," as she's frantically trying to stop the bleeding, trying to help in any way, shape, or form. I would like to use a help point
Absolutely.
that I have to give to Seir.
For Seir, how many help points do you have with Seir?
2.
Would you like to spend both of them or just
I
one?
would absolutely love to spend both of them, for sure.
Okay, so roll 2d6 plus 2.
Hey, you need those.
Lumira, what'd you get? I forgot to roll. That's so funny. I was like hanging on bated breath.
Well, that's actually great, because that's a 13.
That's excellent. Your help is timely and crucial. Seir, you get a +1 to your roll. I think as you cry out, "Not again," Zhiling's blazing eyes, which are becoming like pits of pure infernos, right? They're starting to grow bigger than her mortal form appearance can handle. She's starting to turn into something that is not quite human-like. Those eyes flick over to you and see what you're trying to do. And then flick back to you, Seir. So I'm just going to impose weak to gods as the one weakness tag. Otherwise, roll, I think that's a net 3.
Net 3, yeah.
Yep.
Question is, because Lumira used 2 help points, so I get an additional. Is it just
just a +1? Just a +1,
Gotcha.
yep.
Let's go. Let's go! Boxcars!
What?
Boxcars!
Okay, yes,
Boxcars,
excellent.
baby!
Very needed. So on a 10+, you resonate with each other in a true, deep way. You get to pick one. Recover a burned tag, reduce a status by 1 tier, or receive a positive story tag or status.
I am reducing a status by 1 tier. I am reducing Seir's Heartbroken by 1 tier.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, so you're just Heartbroken 1. Love it. As you call on Drooling to have a stronger will, and as Lumira's voice rings out with sorrow and desperation at the feet of the Emperor, Drooling pauses. The blade doesn't come down, it doesn't pierce through Lu Hua's heart, it doesn't separate Lu Hua's soul from her body. Drooling takes in a deep breath, and when she exhales, the fire is still smoldering in her eyes, but it grows smaller, and the wings come back down. And she looks more like a person, less like just a pure beacon of divinity, more possessed of herself, of her heart. Then what other explanation is there? If not her, then who?
And Seir looks at the flame that still exists, but has died down a little, and looks down at Lu Hua and looks up at Zhiling. I think the situation is far more complicated than we'd like. For now, the Emperor needs us. Help! Help Xiaocheng with the blade! They can't release it on their own.
Druling's eyes fall on Xiaocheng and fall on Lumira tending to the Emperor, and as the vermilion bird moves toward her lover. Lumira, you are by the Emperor's side. Your hands are turning crimson with her blood, and it's so fascinating for a god to bleed red. Just like a person. Just like a mortal. The amethyst dragon, her blood isn't pure flame or pure golden light or even amethyst rivers of divinity. It's just red, like yours. Xiaocheng is beside themselves. Their hand is still wrapped around the hilt of that sword. They are sobbing, they're weeping, they're hysterical, they're not making sense, they're blubbering, and they're just kind of going, no, 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 please, 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 no, 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 no. On and on and on and on. Lumira, how do you try to assess the situation or help the Emperor?
When Lumira skids to a stop, Lumira is frantically trying to get as close to the wound as possible, trying to remove as much clothing that's around. I think she rips a bit of the end of her cloak to kind of tie around the Emperor's chest to try to tourniquet some of the bleeding as she's looking in and around the wound, and she looks up to Xiaocheng. I need help lifting her just a bit, okay? You have to bring it together just for a minute.
I know.
I know.
Emperor,
Listen to me. We have a mission. Breathe and push forward.
I can't.
You can.
I can't.
You don't have time for this right now. Help me lift her. And Lumira looks and kind of like is lifting up the body a bit to look and see if there's an exit wound. Did it go all the way through? Is it out? Like, how bad is the wound itself looking, and what's the temperament of what it looks like once it's pulled out? How bad is that going to? Because going in isn't the bad part. It's pulling out is the part that is the most difficult and try to stop of the bleeding.
Yes, so Xiaocheng is a blubbering, hysterical, useless mess. You shout at them and they just freeze. They just completely freeze. But as you pull at the Emperor's body, another force comes nearby you and helps you gently lift her, and it's Drooling by your side. And she lifts the body of Longdu with such care, but also such strength, so you can better access the wound, better access what's happening. And you hear Drooling's voice in your ear, and you sense her presence by your side, and she says, "Is she gone? Or is she still here?"
She is still here, but I need some help. Hold her still.
You're not sure about that, Lumira, so if you want to know if the Emperor's actually dead, I'm gonna need you to investigate the situation.
Lumira is placating. She's trying to...
Oh, Jesus, okay.
She's trying to assess the situation and see exactly what needs to be done. She knows that loss of hope is the exact thing that does not need to happen right now.
Okay, so even though you haven't yet assessed the situation, you're telling her that there's some glimmer of hope just to keep their shit together. But regardless, while that's happening, yes, as you investigate, go for it. So roll 2d6 plus tags. What tags are you invoking?
First aid, healing, diagnoses as well. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to use stabilizer. I'm going to use love is power. And revert time to heal.
That's 6.
I will, however, inflict need stabilizer, which I will attempt to give to Luhua in the Emperor in whatever way I can. And I will also inflict fatigued on me as well.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, that is a +4. Go for it.
Another 13.
Oh, jeez, y'all are... Okay, this is good. You all are rolling hot. So on a 10+, I'll describe an additional crucial detail even a skilled sleuth might miss. Perfect. As your eyes scan over the Emperor's form, looking at the wound, seeing if it's too severe, if there's anything here, checking for a pulse, checking for a heartbeat, for signs of life, you realize that the Emperor has been killed. This is undeniable. The Emperor has been killed. As soon as the sword went through her chest, she was killed. This is not just any sword. It severs soul from body. It's enough to kill a god. Must have been worked on in secret. Some special aspect of it. The Forge Master or Luhua or someone up in the White Forge.
Like
Well, that's not necessarily why the Emperor is bleeding like a mortal. As the blood stains your hands, with the 10+, I'll give you everything, basically. You remember the Emperor's story. How she was once mortal, but ascended. How she wielded the mantle of God Killer. That must have to do with why her blood still looks like a person's blood and not a god's blood. There's something else, too, and this is that crucial detail. The Emperor has been killed, but she hasn't died. Not yet. You look up, because movement catches your attention. An X, a red X, flicking into existence above the limp head of the Emperor, stabilizing in and out of reality somewhere above and beneath the journey. And then another.
Connie, you're starting to break up.
No! Okay, sorry.
Listen, I literally almost like shit my pants right then, because right as you started talking, I thought it was an actual like intentional glitch.
It's like so intentional. All right. Is it still coming in and out? Kind of weird. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello, my name is Connie. Pronouns are they, he, and she. I love frogs. I love snakes, and I love. Okay, lovely. That was so weird. It was the X coming in. Where should I take it from? Okay. A red X glitches in and out of existence above the Emperor's limp head, fading somewhere in and between and above and beneath the journey. And at the same time, you see a silhouette behind the Emperor. A black silhouette, like a ghost trapped in static. The Drifter. And for just a fraction of a second, for just 2 beats of time, which feels like 2 centuries, which feels like 2 moments that have already passed, the Drifter's voice, modulated as always, says to you, you can change this. And then you blink and the Drifter is gone. But the X remains. But based on Zhiling's reaction and Xiaocheng's reaction, only you can see the X, based on your moment of investigation here. As we hinge on that, we cut back to the White Forge in a swirl of mist and violence. Xainan. Xuejiang is moving toward you. In one hand, their hammer. In the other, her axe. She used the hammer already to beat Yinghe across the space and slam her into the wall. And now she lifts the axe and she slams it down on you again, impossibly fast. But this time, it's Naim. that jumps to protect you. He lifts up a hand and a shield of pure divine light, accompanied by a flutter of sutra papers, apparates between the point of contact and the axe. And like a force field, we see the axe kind of bounce off of the surface of this shield, and we see Naim next to you shudder in pain as he sustains this psychic barrier. He staggers a little bit. Xainan, what's the move here? Are we staying or are we going?
I think out of fear, as the Forge Master came at him, Xainan had stepped back and in the motion was like trying to get more situated, but couldn't even think before the hammer came down and his hand lands on Naim. We can't leave. And there's a darkness in his voice. It isn't his agent mentality. This isn't the calculated, smart call. His eyes are locked on her, and he cannot turn away from this fight.
Naim sees that. He sees it and he hears it. And for a fraction of a second, Naim is in a position where they make a choice. The logical good choice would be to say, screw that, we need to live, grab you and run. But he doesn't pick that. He doesn't make that decision. He makes the decision that wells inside of him because of the conversation you had in the garden. He makes the decision based on the hope he has for you, based on the loyalty he has for you, based on that thread of love that still remains between the two of you. He closes his eyes. He nods. And when Naim Zaran opens his eyes again, you know that he is all in with you. Okay. Then let's see how we can make God bleed. And Naim turns his barrier back toward Shrijiang and widens it as Shrijiang lifts her hand again and slams the axe down once more, and there's a ripple effect that wobbles through the barrier, and Naim lets out a pain as he struggles to keep the shield up. And Shrijiang, you're noticing, she starts pacing around the barrier, cocking her head from side to side as though looking for a weak point here, looking for a way to shatter it. And she starts testing the limits of it, right? Tapping at it like a weaponsmith might with the hammer and then slamming down on it again with the axe. And as Shrijiang is circling this barrier quite literally like a predator, like a tiger encircling her prey, what do you do?
Xainan has shrunk. Usually in combat, he's tall and proud. It's the best way to get the best shot. But as he stands up from Naim, and normally he has such respect and care for the way he handles his hat, he just knocks it off. It scatters onto the floor. The cherry blossom falls out. His bow in his hand feels so strange. His calling is shooting. But this isn't his comfort. This isn't home. And he's suddenly so small and so lost and feeling so mortal. And that turns into a storm inside of him that grows and grows, and that fire catches air that's roiling with dust. And Xainan grits his teeth and steps forward with the weapons that he has, with the violence that he has. And he pulls out his Ima's blade, goes up to the edge of the barrier, and this prey being hunted tries to strike back with a blade shaped like that of a raptor. And
I love it.
Xainan lunges forward, trying to move fast enough that when the Forge Master is looking at Naim's barrier, Xainan can come in for a very calculated and precise strike with the blade.
Okay. That's actually going to be a sneak for me. Rolled 2d6 plus tags.
All right, so here we go. Sentinel against the ending.
Okay.
Ija's boot knife.
Mm-hmm.
survivalist, resourceful criminal,
Okay.
nimble fingers.
Yep. Okay,
And
these 5?
because I invoked it very purposefully, I would like to pitch to the crew using our crew tag, Artemis, the patron saint of mortals.
Okay.
If you thought I was gonna say no, you are so fucking mistaken.
All right. So crew tags are crispy, so we've burned that. We can't use that until we've recovered it, which is not going to be during this fight. That's 6 total. I'm going to invoke Haunted 2 and Drained 2. So that's going to be a net +2 for you.
Okay. And can I use also, I have a fun little story tag that I'd like to use against the Forge Master, because Xainan, in our lovely post-credits moves, the reason why he's here is because he was chasing a hunch that I talked about in our little post-credit scene. So I'd like to take my +1 forward if possible.
A +1 forward, that's a okay, yeah, sure, go for it. So that's a +3. That's the mods is good. Go for it.
All right. Okay. That's hold on, that jumped out. Okay,
Yes,
so it's okay. It's an 8. We're alive.
Okay.
It's still not going great.
Okay, that's an 8. So on a 7 to 9, you're compromised in some way. Choose one. A single person notices you, you leave crucial evidence behind, or you stumble upon an immediate threat.
I mean, there's an obvious answer here.
Yes. The threat one?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So as you dart out of this barrier, it's a one-way barrier, so you can leave because Naim lets you leave easily. You slip out of it, right? Like an assassin in the dark. And your talon blade flashes forward. Where are you trying to get, Shijiang?
Just underneath Ta's ribs.
Okay. As the blade flashes forward, it's like hitting a solid pane of steel. Even though Shijiang's body looks like it's made of flesh, looks like it's similar to a cross between a tiger and a woman, it is very much not. You come up against the insurmountable wall of divinity. For she is still a god. You're in a city full of gods. You're in a city full of over 10,000 gods. And the raptor claw doesn't shatter, but it does ping back, and you feel your forearm kind of shake, rattle, vibrate all the way up to your heart in your nervous system, and you see not exactly a gash, no blood, but almost like a dent in her fur that as she breathes out, it kind of puffs back out again as though there was no mark upon her body at all. But what you do, however, is distract her slightly. She looks away from Naim and down at you, right? As though you were some interesting mosquito, a fly, a bug of some sort that had escaped her notice for half a second. And she goes,
right where I want you.
And lifts the axe that's in her hand and cleaves it down as though trying to like cut you in half vertically from above. So Xainan, I'm gonna need you to take, are you unwounded right now? Like physically? You're drained and haunted. You're marked for death. You're bound by death. You're not technically physically wounded, right? You're just
bound by death is a plus, not a minus.
Yeah, that is a plus. That's a good thing with Longway.
Yeah.
Yep.
But everything
So
else,
no
yeah,
physical
I'm
wounds,
not
yeah?
physically wounded at this moment, no.
Okay, so the first time this axe makes contact, and as soon as it cuts into your flesh, you learn its name. Because it tells you its name. In the ringing of your blood against its blade, its name is Destruction. Destruction gouges your body and spills your blood in crimson rivers, and if you are unwounded, you now take wounded 5. Would you like to resist this?
Yes!
Okay, again, for context, if you hit 6 on anything, you're dead. So how many tears would you like to try to resist this by?
I think, I'm gonna go with, I have to do a lot of math very suddenly. for 5. Oh god, I think I'm gonna try and resist it for. Oh, math. I don't know that. Okay, I'm gonna try and resist it for 4. Wait.
So you go down to wounded 1.
No, because if I get hit by it again, I'll still die. I gotta do a 5, I think.
Okay, so I've rewritten the resist a status move to make it just simpler and easier, cleaner to understand. When you resist taking a negative status, burn a tag for every tier you reduce. So you're gonna have to burn 5 tags if you want to bring it down to 0.
You know what? I'm going to resist 2.
Resist 2. Okay, so you bring it down to 3. Okay.
3.
Which tags do you burn?
Streamlined equipment. I think the axe strikes the like beautiful quiver and everything that Xainan uses. I think it is going. I think it knocks the blade out of his hand.
Okay, so you just boot knife. It's out of the fight.
You just boot knife. It's out of the fight.
Okay. It's like somewhere in the shadows. You don't know where it is. Okay.
Yeah, and no, I gotta keep that one. I'm gonna say no. Nimble fingers, because I think narratively all of these are the ones that make sense. The axe comes down and it cuts his arm, making it harder for him to move quickly. The gear gets disrupted, and the knife goes flying.
I love it. You dodge out of the way of a fatal. Nigh fatal blow, but it does get you real good on the arm. And you feel something really warm start pouring out of your skin and dripping onto the ground.
Now that's an honest noise, isn't it?
Xiaocheng cocks her head in your direction, and you see the blood that gleams, your blood, that gleams on her axe. It doesn't drip off of the blade, but it sinks into it, as though the axe were drinking your life force.
Xainan begins to hear a thrum that he put away when he was a ghost. One that he felt so pure through everything that he had to crush down when he was talking to Mimosini. That drumming, the beat of a forge master's hammer, the glint in a man's eye before he erupted into flame. Xainan just hears destruction. No. Oblivion banging in his ears. And it should hurt, but it turns him into cold-hardened steel.
As that cold steel transformation comes over you, Xiaocheng turns to face you fully and begins to lift the hammer, which starts to glow a blinding diamond white. Now she raises it and starts to slam it down. On the force of that action, we smash over to the Hall of Peerless Destiny. Seir, Lumira and Zhiling are at the Emperor's side, with Xiaocheng still wailing, sobbing hysterically, hand wrapped around the hilt of that sword. You've just saved Lu Hua's life, basically. And in that moment, Lu Hua, words return to her, to the Forge Master's apprentice. She quickly stammers, it wasn't me, Seir. I didn't do it. I don't understand.
I know.
I don't understand what's happening.
I know it isn't you. This is bigger than us. And Seir looks at that blade and forms a conclusion in his mind. But he holds on to reaching out to Lu Hua's hands and he says, "It does not matter what we have done, because it is done. What matters is what we do now. You hear me?"
Yes, but is the Emperor okay? Zhiling, Lumira, how is the Emperor? Xiaocheng, Virtue? Anyone? And we push over to you, Lumira, in this moment, as you sense that though the Emperor has been killed, she's not died yet. It's almost like just underneath the closed lids of her eyes, only you can sense not movement, not physical movement, but a kind of spiritual movement. almost, within the Emperor, but it's bottled, it's stoppered by where the blade has sunk into her chest. If you want to be able to access whatever's going on with the Emperor's consciousness in that strange place between life or death, you're gonna have to pull the sword out.
But that's been difficult, though, yes? Like, Xiaocheng has
Xiaocheng, physically, personally, has not been able to, yes. But maybe Zhiling would if she helped.
Lumièra sits for a second and takes a deep, steadying breath to calm herself, but also to radiate a semblance of that same comfort to those around her. She knows what she's about to say will not go over well, but there's always a but. Her mortal body is gone. But you have to trust me on this. She's not all gone. Just yet. She's still there under the surface, but we need that blade out. And Lumièra turns and looks to Zhiling, her eyes wide, pleading, but determined, focused, and steady, all at the same time.
Say no more. Zhiling wraps her hands around the hilt over Xiaocheng's trembling fingers and looks over down at the courtier of four symbols, the newly proclaimed virtue, and says, Xiaocheng, you have to get it together. For the Emperor, for the city. You are the virtue. You have to start acting like one. You have the power in you. You have the strength in you. You just have to access it. Pull the sword out with me. And then another hand wraps around the other side of the hilt, also over Xiaocheng's fingers, and it's Ansha's. And Ansha places a hand on Xiaocheng's back and says very seriously, none of that cocksure, halfway serious, halfway joking energy apparent on their face at all. They're completely serious. Xiaocheng, my darling, you can do this. And Seir, how do you lend your strength in this moment?
You don't have any extraneous threats, right? At the moment?
Aside from the panicking, screaming gods, but none of them are attacking each other. They're just milling and seething and running around and wailing.
Mm-hmm. Seir picks up Lu Hua. She's going to need firm hands. And he looks over at Lumira, a sidelong, loving glance. She is the best, damnedest healer this multiverse has ever seen. And you and I are going to make her job easy. Right? Firm hands in the forge. You and I, together.
Firm hands in the forge. And Lu Hua stands up, walks over with as much confidence as they can muster, buoyed by your friendship, and places her hand on the hilt as well. And then we see a black-tipped hand also come out, as Lang Hui approaches and wordlessly just curls their fingers around the sword. And finally, with a clacking of an abacus bead sliding into place, Chunxing also puts their hand over the hilt of the sword, impaling their mentor. And Zhiling says, together.
Count of 3.
Ready? Lead us.
1, 2, 3. And as the blade comes out, I think some of it nicks Lumièra's hands as she presses all of her body weight in to where the wound was to stop the bleeding. I need more. So, in my pocket. Deep down, grab it. I need gauze.
Seir literally, like right at your side, tears open that pocket. He knows exactly where you keep your equipment, and he brings out fistfuls of the gauze, and already without any instruction from you, begins to put down the gauze and wrap tightly.
Lumira gets up on one knee, her left hand, gilded fingertips covered in blood as she puts all of her weight on it, ripping another section of her cloak with her right hand and tying a knot with her teeth around.
Take this. And Seir takes off his robe.
Continues on tying, stacking more gauze and tourniqueting, pulling with her teeth. She's grunting and focused. This will never happen again as long as I live. I meant that. And she's mumbling to herself over and over again. I meant it. I meant it.
And as the sword slides out of the Emperor's chest, that swirling diamond embedded in the pommel cracks as though planned. And then, before anyone can stop it, it shatters. And from its depths explodes a roiling, seething river of corrupted mist. And we're gonna cut to break there. See y'all in 10 minutes. Enjoy the fan art reel and Spawny/sponsor Connie if you're in the Twitch or the YouTube. If you're in TikTok, enjoy the break. Go check out our links in my bio. We love y'all so much. Plus your Patreon. You're gonna get a talkback of this truly wild episode. We love you. Bijo.